This video is removing the barrel from the AIRACUDA Standard and the AIRACUDA Max. This procedure will be done using the following tools: a crescent wrench, a heat gun, 5mm Allen, 2.5mm Allen. And to perform this, we want to remove the stock off of the gun. Using the 5mm Allen, take the bolt out of the bottom of the stock. I put it back in the bottom of the action to not lose it, and then remove the stock off the gun. The next step would be to grab the 2.5mm Allen, put it in the barrel band, loosen the barrel band all the way, take off the fill cap and the barrel band. Now we're ready to proceed forward with the rest of the shroud and barrel assembly. Okay, we have removed the barrel band and the fill cap off the end of the pressure tube. Now what we need to do is, using the heat gun, heat the end of the shroud where it is threaded to the barrel retainer. I prefer to degas the gun before I do this, as to not heat the air in the air tank. So degassing the gun can be done on the left side of the breech. Once again, we're going to grab our 2.5mm Allen, loosen the screw up, let all the air out until it reads empty. I then like to cock it and fire it once it's fully empty to make sure it has no air in it. Okay, let's assume that we've done that now. So we will begin heating this up. I will usually put it in this direction and put it in a vise so we can work around both sides of the shroud to get it warm. And we don't need to get it red hot or anything like that. We just need to get it really warm, and that'll loosen up the Loctite. So once we do that, we can unscrew the shroud by hand. Very fine thread. Pull it off. Like to dump out all the parts into a rag. You'll have your baffles and your air stripper that go inside. Now, once again, we have it in this orientation. What we're going to do is we're going to take a 2.5mm Allen again. And we're going to remove, we're not going to loosen, we're going to remove both of the Allens on top of the breech and set those aside. If you look down in the bottom, there is a dimple down there for the Allens to ride in. It's very important that we put this back into location, otherwise the transfer port will not be lined up with the valve properly. That's why I take them out, so we could visually see the dimples down in the bottom. Okay, now we are going to heat up the breech itself once again with the hot gun in this orientation until this becomes loose enough where we can easily unscrew it with a crescent wrench or an opened end wrench. We don't want to try to force it, so if it's still tight, just keep heating it up on both sides and work your way around it until it's loose enough where you can easily turn it. Okay, so now we've heated it up and I can easily turn it now. Of course, this one's not hot, so don't do this if you've heated yours up. You want to use your wrench and leather gloves. But for the purpose of this video, I'm doing it by hand because I've already had this apart. So we just simply continue to unscrew it until the whole apparatus is unscrewed from the breech. Now it has a lot of threads, and it'll get to a point where you can just sit there and unscrew and unscrew and unscrew and nothing will happen because there's O-rings around the breech end of the gun that prevent it from coming out. So you'll have to tug on it. Okay, here we are. We've unscrewed the whole thing. And as you can see, there's the transfer port and there's the O-rings we talked about. And then those are the two dimples that we're going to see from the top of the breech. Hopefully this gland nut hasn't moved and you can just simply screw it back in to its previous location. If it has moved, what I like to do is put the magazine in the mag well and screw this down until it touches the magazine, and then back it out till you see those two dimples once again in the top of the breech. You don't want to tighten this down in any location other than with those dimples facing the top of the breech. If you tighten it down in this orientation or any other orientation, then that transfer port will not be located straight down like it needs to be, and the air will be running into the side wall and not through the transfer port. Okay, let's get it back together. Okay, we have threaded it back into the breech. I have the gun cocked and on safe. Of course, it has no air in it. We're going to try to put the magazine in. And it won't fit. It physically won't fit back in. Now, remember, if we look on top of the breech again, we don't see the dimples up there. So we got to turn this back until we see those dimples. Then once we get to the dimples, then we can just check the mag fit again. So let's rotate it. Okay, so there's the dimples. Excuse me. As you can see, they're too far that way and not centered. So it still will not fit. The magazine won't fit in the gun until we have those dimples centered. So let's get them centered up and get the grub screws back in place. Okay, so we've centered it up, and I put one of the grub screws down and I locked it down. So now we can see that this goes in and out just like it's supposed to. And you'll notice that it'll be slightly inward. Slightly inward. That's perfectly normal and how it should be. So once we got it to the point where we can see both of the notches down there for the grub screws, both of the indents, then we go ahead and put them in, tighten them down, make sure that the magazine fits in and all of that, and then we go ahead and tighten down the breech lock nut. Then we can continue on from there. Okay, we have both of our grub screws in. They are into the detents. Everything's locked in place. We have used our crescent wrench to tighten down the jam nut. Now we simply put all the interior parts back in the gun. So here's the air stripper. And then all of the baffles will go on. And then we simply just slide this all back together and screw it down tight. So let's do that. Okay, so to recap, we have our grub screws down into their detents. They are tightened down in place, slightly inbound there on the brass piece. We have tightened down our jam nut with our crescent wrench. We have put all of our interior pieces, our stripper and our baffles, and then screwed our shroud all the way down tight. We've installed our barrel band and tightened it. And now we can air up the gun and make sure everything works fine. At this point, we want to double make sure that we can cock the gun and put the magazine in and out of the breech without any issues. And if that's the case, you're good to go.